overly trusting, if anything. I want so badly to see the good in people.
The Hayden's passing away is going to be ruled as an accidental death. It is going to be ruled as an OD. Allegedly.
Indication for me, because for 4 years I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
Yeah, you can't tell me these aren't related. You cannot tell me. I mean, how freaking scary is that?
Jaguar Wright just walked into the middle of one of the most dangerous conversations in the music industry, and she came with receipts. The rumor swirling right now is that Hayden Panettiere was unalive specifically because she knew too much.
Sad, tragic news. Hayden Panettiere, you may have heard this already, 36 years old, died yesterday. And it appears that this may well have been a drug overdose.
Yeah, that there was certainly some drug use going on.
And according to Jaguar, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's what she believes happened. The allegation is that certain powerful industry executives wanted Hayden silenced because she was getting too loud.
So it took me, I was shocked. It took me by surprise. And it was somebody, led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back. And to be walked down, down the stairs, and it was as like a surprise, presented as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed.
Especially after she began detailing how she says she was deceived and coerced into sexual situations with powerful people around the entertainment business.
She physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this, like this was just, an average day for him. This is something that happens all the time.
They didn't want that story breathing. And whether you believe Jaguar's interpretation or not, that's exactly why this conversation has exploded. Because once somebody starts connecting powerful names, old allegations, suspicious timing, and stories of coercion, people stop looking at each incident individually. They start asking whether there's a pattern. Here's what makes this moment different. Jaguar Wright has been sounding this alarm for years. She's
Necessary court fees and litigations because Jay-Z wants me broken, stopped, or under his control. And it ain't gonna happen, Sean. I'm never gonna be under your control.
Been naming names, describing what she says happens behind closed doors, and warning the public that the industry runs on exploitation and silence. The response she got? They called her unstable. They dragged her name through the mud. They clowned her on every platform until one by one, stories involving some of the people she talked about began receiving renewed public scrutiny. And that changed the way people listened to her.
Because that's what he does. He starts little fires everywhere, forces everyone involved to go and carry water while he sneaks away without a response. That changes now, Sean.
Suddenly, the woman everybody dismissed wasn't so easy to laugh off anymore. Every old interview started getting reposted. Every name she mentioned started getting searched again. Every allegation people ignored the first time suddenly had audiences asking a different question. What if we weren't listening closely enough? And Jaguar hasn't slowed down. She's accelerating. The allegations she's making now are heavier than anything she said before. She claims she personally witnessed disturbing, ritualistic behavior connected to industry events. She has described women the same age Hayden was when she says she was first exploited being treated as disposable. Stories so extreme that they sound unbelievable on first hearing. And to be clear, these are Jaguar Wright's allegations. They have not all been independently verified, but that's also part of why her statements keep generating so much attention. She doesn't speak cautiously. She names names, gives details, and forces the people listening to decide what they believe. Jaguar says she knows certain parts of this world firsthand because she attended Diddy's notorious white parties herself. Not simply to party, but because she claims she was trying to pull potential victims away from situations she believed could become dangerous.
I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim
keeping
Paul?
people against their will, putting people on planes while they're unconscious.
That is the ground we're standing on before we even get to Hayden's own words. Because before Hayden died, she publicly described experiences that for many listeners sounded disturbingly similar to the broader pattern Jaguar had been talking about. Hayden admitted publicly that she had been placed in sexual situations with older men in the industry while trying to advance her career. She said she never wanted any of it, that people around her put her in those rooms. She described leaning on substances just to survive the trauma surrounding what was happening to her.
I should have thought that's so sketchy, but I didn't, because I trusted the person. And it did give me that little bit of energy, and I didn't feel like high and out of control, but I did feel like happy and like I was looking forward to doing the life of the party interviews. Yes.
She recalled one specific incident on a boat where she had no idea an industry executive was waiting in one of the rooms expecting sex. She tried to leave. She tried to get out. Nobody moved. Nobody helped.
Something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave, and lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide.
And according to Hayden's account, that was the moment she realized the people around her weren't protecting her. They were facilitating the situation.
And I bolted, and I hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away, and there was nobody who was going to. I realized that there was nobody who was going to be empathetic to my situation.
That's the part that makes these stories so dark, because exploitation at that level doesn't necessarily require one villain operating alone. It requires access. It requires silence. It requires people looking away when they know something is wrong. And that is exactly the kind of system Jaguar has spent years describing. Now, here's where it gets truly nuclear. Jaguar had already been warning about this kind of pattern before Hayden's story became part of the conversation. She had already given us names. She had already told audiences what she believed was happening to women inside this machine. But everyone was too busy writing her off to actually hear her. One of the most explosive allegations she dropped involved Jay-Z and Rihanna, and Jaguar didn't speak in vague terms. She gave very specific claims about the circumstances surrounding Rihanna's early career.
Rihanna was to Def Jam.
Once she came over here, and look
She
at
was
her now.
14 going on 15 years old. Flown over without parental supervision in a private plane by a man who was supposed to be a producer who auditioned her at 3 a.m. in the morning in a hotel room. Auditioning at 3 a.m. in the morning, a 14-year-old girl.
Jaguar alleged that Rihanna was flown into the United States while still extremely young and without meaningful parental protection. She further claimed that Jay-Z sat her down alone late at night and pressured her aggressively to sign with Def Jam.
She was flown to another country. She was taken to Def Jam headquarters. She was left in a conference room alone with Sean Carter for nearly 6 hours alone with no parental supervision. Her father collected a $500,000 check. She has the fastest inked deal in Def Jam history.
A young artist, alone, in the middle of the night. No parents in the room, no real power compared with the executives sitting across from her. And then, according to Jaguar's version of events, the public narrative surrounding Rihanna and Jay-Z quickly became something completely different. Jaguar has also made the extraordinary allegation that Rihanna's father was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to step back. Again, that claim remains an allegation, not an established fact. But Jaguar didn't even stop at Rihanna. She put Jay-Z on blast over his alleged history with Foxy Brown, accusing him of becoming involved with her when she was extremely young and claiming that the relationship involved manipulation tied to the music business.
Foxy deaf. She deaf because she had the syphilis, because she never got on in venereal disease treated. Y'all should go back and talk to all of the niggas that she slept with in Philly when she was in Philly. She burned every last one of them.
Then the moment Beyonce entered the picture, Foxy was seemingly pushed out of that orbit. And Beyonce herself was still very young when she and Jay first became connected. Jaguar's argument is bigger than any one celebrity. She's saying the same power structure keeps repeating itself. Young talent enters the room, powerful people control the opportunity, and suddenly the difference between consent and coercion becomes dangerously blurred. And Jaguar didn't stop there. Not even close. From Jay-Z, she pivoted straight to Diddy, and what she brought on him went deeper than what most people were willing to say publicly for years. Jaguar recounted a claim allegedly relayed to her by somebody who worked around Diddy's operation, involving Christopher Williams and an alleged sexual encounter inside an office.
I don't know, I guess he wanted to sign. I don't know what happened. But Puff was supposed to be giving him a demo deal, and he gave him a demo deal, and I guess it was supposed to turn into an album deal, which that never happened. But this young woman walked in to get approval on some paperwork. See? And when she walked in, the door wasn't locked, so she didn't think twice about just walking in. And when she walked in, she saw Christopher Williams performing fellatio on Puff.
Not at a party, not at some secret gathering, in a professional environment. Jaguar's interpretation was that the allegation wasn't about sexuality. It was about power. The idea that somebody controlling contracts, access, money, and careers could allegedly pressure another person into doing something they didn't want to do because the opportunity was sitting on the other side of that decision.
He came into her office and was like, yeah, so you came in there, so what? What you gonna do? You wanna say something? And she was like, oh no, she was like, I just don't understand why you left the door unlocked. If you were in there doing that, why would you leave the door unlocked? He said, I'll do whatever the fuck I want to do in my building. And I just don't know. He was like, it's power, see? I can make a man, he said, if I can make a man suck my dick, I can make people do anything.
That distinction matters because the bigger accusation Jaguar keeps making isn't simply that powerful people behave badly. It's that the entire structure surrounding them allegedly made resistance incredibly difficult. Jaguar was one of the earliest loud voices describing Diddy in those terms, accusing him of using his position to exploit people who wanted access to the industry and had very little leverage to fight back. Now, while all of this was pouring out of her, people in the culture were genuinely scared for Jaguar's safety. The thinking online was that eventually somebody powerful would either bury her in litigation or find some other way to make her stop talking. And that fear grew because audiences began connecting Jaguar's warnings with other people who had spoken publicly about powerful figures before disappearing from the conversation through death, legal pressure, platform bans, or personal collapse. The internet naturally turns those coincidences into theories. Some are supported by evidence, others aren't. But the suspicion itself is now part of the story. The reason Hayden's case hit different is because of how prominent she was. But she wasn't alone. Before she passed, Kayla had reportedly signaled that Jay-Z was going to become one of her next major subjects.
An A-list rapper thought there would be a fair chance he would be in jail by the time Labor Day rolled around, so canceled his festival. Why does Jay-Z allegedly think that there is a fair chance he will be in jail by the time Labor Day has rolled around?
And that she believed his connection to Diddy ran much deeper than the public understood. She was also talking about Jennifer Lopez, the Kardashians, and members of the royal family. She wasn't playing favorites, she was going after the entire ecosystem.
That's him. Like I said, he was offloading all of his assets into offshore bank accounts, and with his mommy and with his kids, he didn't have any more cash in his bank accounts for Young Miami to get.
What makes that story even more controversial is what happened shortly before she died. There were claims that Jennifer Lopez's team had taken action against Kayla's TikTok presence. And because Kayla was dealing with health problems and relied heavily on her social media audience, losing access to that platform reportedly had financial consequences too. That distinction is important. Silencing somebody online isn't the same thing as proving a larger conspiracy against them. But when somebody's platform is also their livelihood, removing the platform can still have enormous consequences.
Estimating that, quote, J-Lo is costing more than 4 figures of income just for March 2024, unquote, which affects her ability to access necessary medical care. Yeah, I can't get a colonoscopy anytime soon. Can't afford it. And you guys already know I'm overdue, and I missed colon cancer.
And that's exactly why these stories become combustible. One event gets connected to another, then another. Then suddenly people aren't just asking what happened. They're asking who benefited from the person becoming quiet. Now people are looking back at the moment Jay-Z and Beyonce threatened legal action following Jaguar's Piers Morgan interview, where she made extremely serious allegations about them. At the time, many viewers dismissed those claims as outrageous. But once lawsuits, investigations, resurfaced interviews, and other industry scandals started dominating headlines, people went back and watched Jaguar again with completely different ears. That doesn't automatically make every allegation true, but it does explain why her words carry more weight with certain audiences now than they did several years ago. Jaguar says Hayden's death was not random. She believes Hayden was silenced before she could reveal more. There is no publicly established evidence proving that claim, but online, people immediately began connecting Hayden's death with the things she had previously said about exploitation, trauma, and powerful people in entertainment. The comments said exactly what you'd expect. People called it a setup. They said she knew too much. They said the timing felt impossible to ignore. And that's where this story currently lives. Somewhere between documented accounts of exploitation, explosive allegations from Jaguar Wright, and an internet audience convinced that the entertainment industry's darkest secrets are finally spilling into public view. The bigger question may not even be whether every single allegation Jaguar makes turns out to be accurate. The bigger question is how an industry became so associated with secrecy, coercion, abuse, and retaliation that millions of people now find these stories believable in the first place. Because once public trust is gone, every silence looks suspicious. Every sudden disappearance becomes a question mark. Every old interview becomes evidence people want to re-examine. And every person willing to name names becomes either a whistleblower or a target depending on who you ask. That's the environment Jaguar Wright is speaking into right now. And she clearly has no intention of lowering her voice. If you're tired of the watered down takes and want the stories everybody else is afraid to touch, stick with BarzBuzz. We don't do PR, we don't do spin. And we follow the claims, the contradictions, the receipts, and the stories shaking the culture. Subscribe and make sure you're notified. The next one drops sooner than you think.